I still remember the sound of that empty apartment. The way my footsteps echoed off bare walls the first time I walked in. I'd started working at 15, never asked for a single dime. Every bill, every meal, every book for school, I paid myself. Sometimes it felt like nobody even noticed. I'd save up coins in a jar, skip lunch, take shifts nobody else wanted, just to keep moving forward. Most people my age spent weekends at parties. I spent them washing dishes or stocking shelves, try to put a few more dollars toward something better. I kept telling myself it would all be worth it the day I opened the door to a place that was finally mine. No roommates. No hand-me-downs. Just a space I built from scratch. When I finally bought that apartment, I called my parents. I wanted them to be proud. I wanted them to see what I'd done, on my own. But when I told them, the line went silent. My dad cleared his throat and asked, "So you put in your name?" I said, "Yeah. I worked for this." He said nothing. My mom barely muttered a word. A week later, I got a letter from their lawyer. I stood in my new kitchen, reading the same sentence over and over. "We believe you have taken what rightfully belonged to your sister." Instead of celebrating, they accused me of stealing her future. No one ever asks what it feels like to be punished for your own hard work. But maybe you've been there. Ever worked your whole life for something, only to watch the people you love try to take it away? The first night in my apartment was supposed to feel like freedom. Instead, I barely slept. I kept hearing my mom's voice in my head, sharp and cold. "You know this isn't right." I lay there, staring at the ceiling, wondering how earning something on your own could ever make you the villain. My phone buzzed at midnight. A text from my sister. "All you ever think about is yourself. You never cared what I needed." I wanted to reply, tell her about the jobs I'd worked, the nights I'd gone hungry, the things I'd given up just to get here. But I didn't. Instead, I scrolled through old photos, birthdays, Christmas, backyard barbecues where we used to laugh. How does a family go from laughter to lawsuits? The next morning, I called my dad. He answered, but his voice was hollow. I said, "Dad, you really think I stole something from her?" He sighed. "Your mother's upset. Your sister deserves a fair shot." "But what about me?" I said. He paused. "We all have to make sacrifices." I bit my tongue. What about my sacrifices? My hours mopping floors, my skipped meals, the scholarships I fought for, the rent I paid alone? But I stayed quiet. There's a rule in my family: never argue with parents. Never show anger. Just take it. That afternoon, a certified letter arrived. Legal language. Court date. List of damages. They wanted money, more than I'd ever saved. I sat at the little kitchen table, staring at the page, trying to remember if I'd done anything wrong. I hadn't cheated. I hadn't stolen. But somehow, in their eyes, my independence was a crime. That night, I made a decision. If I had to defend everything I built, I would. But I kept thinking, when did proving yourself mean losing everyone you love? I started writing down everything. Every paycheck, every rent slip, every receipt. If they wanted proof, I'd give them proof. I made a folder and labeled it just in case. Funny how you work your whole life for something, and the first thing you do is start collecting evidence, not memories. My job at the grocery store was the same as always. Stocking shelves, unloading trucks, counting hours until I could go home. But now, every beep of the scanner felt like a clock ticking down. My manager asked if I was all right. I shrugged and said, "Just tired." He said, "You need a break?" I just shook my head. No one tells you how lonely it feels to be right. After work, I walked past the little park near my building. Families on benches, kids laughing, couples sharing ice cream. I remembered when I was a kid, racing my sister up the slide, my mom cheering from the grass. When did everything get so complicated? I thought about calling my sister just to hear her voice. But I knew all I'd get was blame. My phone buzzed again that night, my mom this time. "We're not doing this to hurt you. You have to understand. She's always struggled. She deserves a chance." I wanted to scream, so did I. But I didn't. I put my phone down, turned off the lights, and let the silence wrap around me. Sometimes it's quieter being alone than trying to explain yourself to people who have already made up their minds. I started working overtime. More hours, more money. Maybe if I showed them I could give back, they'd let this go. I sent my sister a text. If you need help with school, I can try to pitch in. She left me on read. Guess that was my answer. A week before the court date, I stood by my window, looking out over the city, wondering, do families ever really forgive when money's involved? Or does it always come down to who gets what in the end? Courtrooms aren't like the movies. No dramatic music. No big speeches. Just fluorescent lights and the smell of old paper. I sat in the hallway with my hands sweating, trying not to look at my parents across the room. My sister wouldn't even make eye contact. The judge called my name. I walked in alone. My lawyer looked younger than me, kept glancing at his notes like he'd never seen a case like this before. My parents had a lawyer too. Suit, tie, perfect hair, all business. He started talking about family assets and equal opportunities. I wanted to laugh. There'd never been anything equal about my life. The judge listened, asked a few questions. How did you pay for the apartment? I handed over my folder, every receipt, every pay stub, every scholarship letter. She looked at me for a long time. You did this by yourself? I nodded. She just said, thank you, and went back to her papers. My parents' lawyer pressed on. He took advantage of family funds. He denied his sister a chance. I tried to explain. No one ever helped me. Not once. But my voice sounded small in that big, quiet room. After it was over, I stepped outside and took the deepest breath I'd had in weeks. The city felt different. My phone buzzed voicemail from my mom. Her voice was trembling. We're just trying to do what's right. I hope you understand. I sat on the steps, feeling empty. This wasn't the way I imagined success. Not sitting alone outside a courthouse, wondering if I still had a family. I watched people hurry past, strangers, going home to people who'd be happy to see them. I wondered, is it better to fight for your future if it means losing your past? Or do you just let go and start over, even when your heart's not ready? The days after court felt longer than the months I'd spent saving for that apartment. I'd thought that telling the truth would be the hardest part. But it's what came after, the silence, the waiting, the memories that crept in late at night, that really got to me. I went to work, kept my head down, and tried to act normal. People asked if everything was okay. I told them it was just a long week. But every time I checked my phone, hoping for a message that never came, I felt another piece of me slipping away. One evening, after a late shift, I came home to find a letter slipped under my door. No return address. I recognized my sister's handwriting right away. I opened it with shaking hands. Inside, just a single sheet of paper. You always acted like you didn't need us. But maybe you did. And maybe I needed you to say it. I stared at those words for a long time. She'd written more, but it was all crossed out. Nothing else, no apology, no demands, just that. That night, I sat on the floor of my empty living room, letter in hand, thinking about what family is supposed to mean. Maybe I'd never been good at asking for help. Maybe I'd gotten so used to being alone that I forgot how to let anyone in. I thought about reaching out, but the gap between us felt too wide to cross with just a phone call. I set the letter on my desk, promising myself I'd reply. Someday, when I knew what to say. Work became my only escape. I started picking up every shift I could. Saved even more, though I didn't really know what for anymore. I'd built my independence out of necessity, not choice. But it's strange how success can feel like a punishment when no one's there to celebrate with you. Some nights I'd lie awake, staring at the ceiling, listening to the hum of city traffic and wondering, does anyone ever really earn a family's love, or is it just something you hope to keep, no matter what? A week passed. No verdict yet. Every day felt heavier, like the apartment was shrinking around me. The more I tried to distract myself, the more every small thing reminded me of my family. A photo on the fridge from my high school graduation. Me, my sister, my parents, arms around each other, all smiles. I'd always thought that photo meant we'd stick together, no matter what. Now it looked like a picture of strangers. Work became a routine I clung to. Mornings stocking shelves, afternoons running registers, evenings taking overtime if anyone offered. I said yes to every shift. The less time I spent at home, the less I had to think about what I was losing. Then one morning, my manager pulled me aside. He was a tough guy, never smiled much, always wore the same faded baseball cap. He asked, "You holding up all right?" I just nodded, kept my eyes on the floor. He handed me my pay envelope, and as I turned to leave, he said, "Not everyone gets to stand on their own 2 feet. Don't let anyone make you feel bad for it." His words surprised me. All this time, I'd been so focused on what my family thought that I forgot other people might see things differently. Maybe not everyone believed I was selfish for wanting a life of my own. That night I went for a walk, wandering past old spots, my elementary school, the playground where my sister and I used to race, the pizza shop we'd beg for on birthdays. Each place held a memory, some good, some hard to remember, without feeling a knot in my stomach. I stopped outside my parents' house, the porch light glowing just like it always had. For a minute, I almost walked up the steps, almost knocked on the door, almost tried to make it right. But I knew it wasn't that simple anymore. I stood there, breathing in the quiet, letting the weight of everything settle on my shoulders. Maybe being on your own isn't about proving anything. Maybe it's about learning to carry what you can, and letting go of the rest. Still, I wondered, is moving forward just another way of leaving the people you love behind? The court's decision came on a rainy Thursday morning. I was at work, stacking cans, when my phone buzzed with the email. My hands shook as I wiped them on my apron, afraid to open it, afraid of what it would mean for all of us. It took me almost an hour to finally read it. The judge's words were simple, almost cold. There is no evidence that the defendant used family assets or deprived his sibling of her rights. The apartment remains solely in his name. That was it. No celebration, no victory parade, just a digital signature at the bottom of a PDF file. I stood in the stockroom, staring at my phone, feeling both lighter and heavier all at once. I clocked out early and walked home in the drizzle, letting the rain soak through my shirt, not really caring if anyone saw. I kept thinking about my sister, about my parents, about the empty space between us now. Winning felt nothing like I'd imagined. If anything, it just made the silence around me more obvious. That night, I sat at my kitchen table with the judge's email open beside my untouched dinner. I thought about calling home. I thought about sending a message to my sister, telling her I never wanted to take anything from her, that all I'd ever tried to do was survive. But I didn't know how to say any of that. Not after everything that had been said in court. Not after all those weeks of being treated like an outsider in my own family. Instead, I grabbed the letter my sister wrote and read it again, every line, every crossed-out word. I wondered if she'd ever understand how hard I'd worked, how much I'd given up just to get here. Or if, to her, I'd always be the brother who took too much. The rain tapped at the windows. I leaned back in my chair and closed my eyes, listening to the quiet apartment, and wondered, when the fight is over and you're finally free, what are you supposed to do with the loneliness that's left behind? The days after the verdict were quieter than I expected. No phone calls, no messages, just the steady hum of the city outside my window. I went to work, paid my bills, kept up the same routine. But everything felt different now. Winning in court didn't bring my family back. It just proved how far we'd drifted apart. One Saturday morning, I found myself at the old playground again. I sat on the swing where my sister and I used to race, pushing each other higher, shouting out promises we barely understood. A little kid ran past, laughing, chasing a friend. For a moment, I remembered what it was like to feel connected, to have people in your corner, even if you fought sometimes. Later that afternoon, I went home and cleaned out my apartment. I boxed up the old graduation photo, the birthday cards I'd kept in a drawer, even the letter my sister wrote. Some things, I realized, weren't meant to be carried forever. I didn't call my parents. I didn't send another message to my sister. Instead, I made peace with the fact that I'd done what I had to do. I'd built something out of nothing, even if it meant standing alone at the finish line. Weeks turned into months. I started seeing small signs that life was moving forward. A neighbor invited me over for coffee. A promotion at work came through. I started saving for something new, not out of fear or scarcity, but hope. Sometimes I still wonder what my parents think when they hear my name. If my sister ever tells anyone about the brother who never stopped trying, even when she couldn't see it. But I know this much. Family isn't just about blood or names on a deed. It's about choosing who stands with you when it matters most. In the end, I didn't just win an apartment. I learned that real freedom comes with letting go of people who hold you back and forgiving yourself for needing to. I close my eyes, take a deep breath, and finally feel ready to start again.